to come on today and do a quick, kind of like a basic hydrangea wreath. YouTube, you guys have been giving me a lot of love, so I want to keep the videos going and I want to keep being of service to you. So what I thought I would do today is, I know we have wreath makers at all different levels, so I thought maybe we just kind of roll it back a little and go over some of like the basic fundamentals. But this is still going to be a quick one, so I hope you like it. All right. The first thing that we do when we get our wreath is that they come all wild like this. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take a couple minutes or however long it takes, and we're gonna go around and we're gonna trim off all of these wild pieces. Okay. Kind of give your wreath a haircut so it looks nice and polished, and also it's gonna look more symmetrical. Okay, and more pleasing to the eye. So if you're watching this on replay, if you can let me know, that would be great, just so I know that what I'm doing is helpful. So sorry, I forgot to put this on my iPad too. Okay, so sorry, poor planning. All right, so as I was saying, we're gonna go through and we're gonna take off all of these stray pieces. And if the wreath should have a lot of leaves or pine needles in them, that's something that you want to clear out too, because we're going to be gluing directly into the grapevine. So if we're gluing into things that are already decomposing, then it's just not going to hold. Okay. So right now, looking at this wreath, you can tell it's so wonky. This side is so small and this side is nice and full. And for a crescent wreath, this is perfect because no one's even going to see this. That's the side we're going to design on. So if you're doing a crescent wreath, take a little assessment of your wreath and see which side is the good side and which side you want to cover up. This wreath made it really easy. And we are going to also do the back. And the reason why, especially if you are a seller, is that you do not want to be shipping things that are going to damage somebody's door. So if you have, you know, whether it's grapevine twigs or the stems on our florals, any of those things can damage and scratch a door. So we just want to take an extra minute to just make sure that we're being thorough. Your customers will appreciate it. Okay. She looks like such a hot mess, but she's going to be so pretty. All right. Next up, we are going to take one of these pieces of jute wire or grapevine wire, and I'm going to find the top part of my wreath. It's kind of like the North Star. So for me, this is going to be it. So it's going to be one thick piece, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide this through and twist the ends. And because it does blend in so well with the bow, with the wreath, I'm going to mark it with this little ribbon, just so I can find it again, like if I should lose track of it. All right. Okay, here we go. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a very basic bow. All right, and it's basic, but it totally does the trick. So I call this the 10 by 10. I know, very clever name. And the reason why is because we are going to continue to measure in 10 inches, okay? So let me see. Hey, Brenda. Oh my gosh, I'm glad you're on too. And Diane, hello. Oh my gosh, ladies. So nice to see you. Or, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. See you virtually. So I get my wreaths from Michael's. I do Michael's Pro, and I think they're about like $3.35 or so. Joann's Plus is also a great way to get grapevine wreaths in bulk, okay? All right, so can you see the ruler? Yes. All right, so what I'm gonna do is laying the like ugly side down. I'm gonna measure 10 inches, okay? And at the 10-inch mark, I am going to pleat, okay, or pinch, whatever word. Then I'm gonna lay it back down on my ruler, and I'm gonna bring it up, and again, I'm gonna pleat. So right now, my pointer finger and my thumb are holding this, okay? We have our first loop. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna twist this, because we always want the ugly side going down on the ruler, and we're gonna go back to our ruler and measure 10 inches. And once again, I'm gonna bring that up, and I'm holding it like this. So right now we have 2 out of our 3 loops. Now again, we're gonna do a nice hard twist, because we wanna make sure that each loop is like fully formed. And you guessed it, we're gonna do another 10 inches. Okay, so ugly side down, and I'm gonna measure 10 inches, and I'm gonna bring it to the back again, and I'm going to pleat or pinch it, okay? Now we have this extra long piece, and that's because I want an extra set of tails. So what I'm gonna do is, just around like the halfway point, I am just going to bring this up, okay? So we have 3 loops, they're all the 10 inches, and then I have this big loop that is gonna be for our tails. All right, now I don't wanna see me, I just wanna see the chat. Here we go, okay. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my floral wire. This is 22 gauge, which I like because it's durable enough to really hold, but it's also malleable enough so, you know, it's not like ridiculous trying to get this on. And what I'm gonna do is I slid it under my thumb, and then I'm gonna turn this over, and I'm gonna start to twist this like super, super tight, okay? Okay, and now I'm gonna put this on a floral pick. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I feel like sometimes when I don't, the bow ends up a little bit swallowed up. Let's see, so putting it on our floral pick, okay, they all come with this little piece of copper wire. You can just ignore it, you really don't need to take it off. It's not gonna help or harm. So starting at the very top of my bow, okay, I'm gonna hold it with my thumb, and I'm just gonna start to twist. So I'm taking this 22 gauge wire, and I'm wrapping it all the way around, okay, just until it's all used up. Okay, and then what I like to do, just because I'm a little bit OCD with the mechanics, is I don't really want it to show. I don't like anything industrial, like this does not look natural. It's metal wire. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my floral tape, and starting again at the top, I am going to start spinning this so that I'm covering up the wire. Now, if you're not familiar with floral tape, it's not like sticky like regular tape. It's just very tacky. So when you're using it, if you really put like a little bit of pressure on it as you're doing it, that's how it's going to adhere, okay? All right. Look at that, we're just moving along. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to put this in the center of the side of this wreath, okay? And I always use 2.5-inch wired ribbon, and the reason why is because it's really malleable. There are some rock stars that do things with 4-inch ribbon. I am not at that level yet. It intimidates me a bit, so I am a work in progress. I can use it very minimally, very basic. So I find like this is like a sweet spot for me. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my floral pick, I'm gonna dip it in my glue skillet, which is from Sherbonder, and she's new. I have a green one. He was awesome. He still is awesome. There's nothing wrong with him, but I saw that they had one in pink, and I just had to have her. So I've had a few good name suggestions so far. So one was, it was either Fantasy or Fabulous, which I like that. And then someone said Giselle, which was like, I don't know if it was like, you know, what was it? Not, she didn't say sexy. I mean, I don't think a glue skillet could be sexy, but it was kind of like beautiful, but not all in your face. So I kind of like Giselle. I named my car Brooke Shield, so like I think that might be the path we're going on. But if you have a name for her, here she is. She is so beautiful and deserves a good name. All right, now to back it up. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this all settled on our wreath. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this big loop that we had and I'm gonna cut it right in half. Okay, so now we have 4 tails. What I'm gonna do to each of the tails is I'm going to fold it in half. Okay, so the open edges are facing this way. And without lobbing off a finger, I am going to cut upward at an angle. And what happens is you're cutting this little piece out, and now your tail has this like pretty little finish to it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do that on all 4 of our tails. And I'd love to know where you're watching from, because I'm like starting to get to know who's who. So I like to know where people are from, because then I kind of know what weather they're dealing with as far as like how they design, because definitely different parts of the country require different steps to be taken to make sure that your wreath doesn't like melt in the sun or, you know, it falls apart from rain, like any of those things. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am arranging my loops the way I want them to be. So I put 2 tails inward, 2 tails outward, and this bow is going to get smushed over and over again during the design process. That's okay. That's what the wiring is for, is because we can then get it back in the exact shape that we want it to. Okay. All right, Brenda is in Pennsylvania and she is cold. Diane is in Connecticut. I'm guessing you had kind of a cold day too. So when we're choosing what greenery to go with, I always let the flowers drive it. So for this, I mean, I could have gone with just like that real bright, vibrant green, but what I thought would be nice would be to use a more blue-based green, okay? So this is more soft, it's more pastel. And then once you know what your foundational greenery is gonna be, you have to pair it with light greens. So I wouldn't wanna use this with something that had like a lot of yellow in it. I want something that again has like a soft look to it. So what I decided for today was that I thought this would pair well, okay? And this is some type of eucalyptus, but it's definitely like softer. It's almost like the color of like lamb's ear, but it's not. So we're gonna use, this is our foundation, and then we're gonna use this to add texture. So whenever we get our ficus, I think you know by now I'm like so team ficus. Oh, well, Betsy's in Canada having nice weather. Well, we're not, Betsy, but we're still happy you're here. And I'm just jealous. I'm just being salty about the whole thing. All right. So when we get a piece of ficus, especially if you're starting off, you don't want to spend a lot of money on supplies. Like ficus are the go-to. So you get 1 stem with 3 branches on it, right? These cost less than $1. I get mine on wholesale, but I have heard other suggestions made where they can find them inexpensively. So I get these from Pioneer, but there's also Craft Outlet. Someone said Craft Outlet has like 12 different variations, so I have to check that out. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I am going to separate the branches. Now the side branches are like the perfect height, so I'm just gonna separate and clip, separate and clip. And that leaves me with this middle piece, and it's just too long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this at a halfway point. And then we're left with this little nubbin guy, little nubbin. I don't always use him, but I do recommend keeping him until the very end because there might just be a spot that is a little bare and you could just plug it in. I don't use it as often because I like when things have like the nice point to them like this. And this guy's just kind of all over the place, you know? So, you know, I'm here offering you guys free information. And what I'm getting in return is you guys are making me spend money, okay? Because now I'm going to have to check out the ficus thing, and then I'm going to fall down a rabbit hole at Craft Outlet. Now I bought the Deluxe Easy Bow Maker, which is not cheap. The Easy Bow Maker is only $20. The Deluxe is $60. So I have faith that you guys are steering me in the right direction. And if I file for bankruptcy, that you're just going to come and buy my craft supplies so that I can live. All right. I know you're not here for the humor. Sorry. Okay. So I've got all my ficus prepped, and now we're going to lay down our ficus as the foundation. Okay. So here we go. All right. Who is in Ireland? Because that is what we gave my daughter for Christmas. She is going to Ireland. She's going to Limerick next, like, summer, I think it is. And she's so excited. Like, she's been learning, like, the language and all that stuff. She's been there once, but this is, like, going to be her first time on her own. I'd love to know what part of Ireland you're in, okay? All right. Back to wreath making. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to set the parameters that we want to build in. I always start in this top corner, and then because I'm OCD, if I do something once, I'm going to do it twice. And so we're going to go to the bottom corner, and we're going to slide upward. Okay, when we're working on the top half, I always slide it down. But when we're working on the bottom half, I like to slide it up because it's just more likely to get caught. Like, in addition to the glue that we're going to use, the grapevine itself holds. Like, how many like sweaters or shirts have you had that have been ruined because the grapevines got stuck to it and just like pulled it apart? I mean, like, that's why we use them. That's what they're good for. They're grippy little guys. Okay. So now we are going to see how wide we're going to go. So I want this to follow the wreath, okay? So I'm going to give this a little bend. Do not be afraid of your materials. They are very malleable. They are meant to be manhandled, and wreath making is not for the faint of heart, okay? So don't be too delicate with them. You don't need to do that. So, okay, curved it up here. Now I'm going to do the same down below. I'm going to give this a little bend. And I'm going to go in like so. And then I'm going to put two more here, one on either side of the bow. So one on top, like so. And then one underneath. Let's see. Okay. And then I think I'm going to do one more. I need one more spiky one. All right, so we're going to do another one up here. I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. Now, you guys have been giving me questions, and I love it. So I'm trying to think of some common ones that I get. One is where I get my easels, because I have two. I have this one, and then I have one that goes back and forth with me to the workshops, like the in-person workshops. So these I always find in the clearance section of Home Goods or HomeSense, and they're like usually with the furniture, and they might even be folded up to the point that it's like you have to really look for them. I've never paid more than $15 for an easel, so I think this was made to like hold art, okay? And I think that's why they're there. All right, so now you can already see, you're already like losing the fact that the side was so scrawny, okay? Because we're just covering it right up. So we're gonna go in with our first hydrangea. I don't know if anyone, I'm gonna cut all 4 of these. I don't know if anyone caught the sale at Michael's last week, but it was buy 2, get 3 free for the hydrangeas. So these are like $3 each. They're usually $8. So it was a really good sale. I hope people took advantage of it because I'm pretty sure it's over now. I think it was just like a last week thing. So what I like to do is like make a big purchase at Michael's, and then if I need something else, like say I need to order a bunch of wreaths, I will wait and let like my rewards process. So after I bought 300 stems of hydrangea, I ended up getting like a $65 rewards thing, and then I use that towards the 100 wreaths that I bought. So my house right now and my workshop are just like busting at the seams. I did do a tour today of my workshop, and I just put on display my dirty little secret, which is my overflow room, which I never show because it's unfinished. But the reality is it's, you know, my workshop can't stay this clean unless I had somewhere to put like all the rest of it. So yeah, full transparency here. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my first hydrangea and I'm gonna dip it in my glue pan. And I wanna make sure. I get so many comments that all you can see is the back of my head. I'm like, I know, I'm just not good at the camera work yet. I will get better. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting this nicely like nestled near the bow, but it's like respectfully nestled, okay? We don't want to crush our bow. And then also this is staying about 2 inches above the grapevine base. If you were building this for a storm door, instead of leaving it out like this, you would have it all the way in, because that way it's not getting smushed by the door, because then you lose the whole beauty of it. So if it's for a storm door, it goes all the way flat to the base. If not, you're gonna leave about 2 inches. So I always try and like pick up clues with customers, and sometimes I'll just ask. Like we made a beautiful wreath, I think it was yesterday, with like this magenta ribbon, and somebody ordered a smaller version of it. And so like my first question was like, is it going in between a storm door? It's not, but that was kind of like, it could have been a hint that it was going someplace that it needed to be made smaller. So it just doesn't hurt to ask. All right. Now we're gonna put our second one right up here. These are really pretty. I like all the different tones that are going on these. I think this whole line, they came out with like lavender, cotton candy pink. They're all really pretty. All right, look at that. We have a wreath, people, already. Few steps. So what do? We did our grapevine. We prepped our grapevine, our bow, our ficus, and our hydrangea. So 4 materials, and we're already looking really good. Next, we're gonna go in with my personal fave, which is texture. I always say texture is the difference between something looking like manufactured or something looking really beautiful and natural looking. Let's see. All right. Oh, you're in Dublin. Oh, East Coast. Okay, awesome. Very exciting. I will let my daughter know. She should be watching her mom on these lives, and she could be interacting with people in Ireland. But she's super, super excited. Okay. This is my first time working with this product, so there might be some times where the foliage is going to be in the way. So I'm just going to pull it off. And again, I'm going to start at this top corner. And what this does is whatever your system is, like say, you know, you want to start from the bottom to the top, or whatever it is. It depends on your design. You should try, or you might want to consider trying to always start on the same note, because what happens is your muscle memory kicks in and you will be very surprised after a while how quickly you could do a wreath. Like if I was doing this wreath and not doing a tutorial, this would be a 20-minute wreath. So it's good to have those, especially if it's something that sells in your shop, because, you know, if you're working with multiples, which is when you keep, you know, promoting the same wreath on Etsy and it keeps selling. So like really you only had one original one that you posted, and after that you're making multiples. So you have to keep recreating the same design. So you'll find that the more you make it, the faster it's going to go, and it's just a lot more predictable. You know what products you need, and it's just it's good to establish some type of multiple, because for anybody who's interested in Etsy, when Etsy knows that you're going to keep selling the same wreath, you know, like if there's evidence that this wreath is going to sell, you know, 10 times, then Etsy's going to decide to put this wreath up above others, because they know that, you know, when we make money, they make money. So it's really important to try and come up with a multiple. And I will say, like, doing multiples, it's not the most fun, because you're not necessarily like flexing your creative muscles like you want. But if it pays the bills, then you should be doing it. We should be doing it. I have one that I've made about 250 times, and you know, it just goes very quickly now, and I'm glad people like it, and I'm really glad I made a multiple that works. And Etsy does tend to put it, you know, higher up than other listings, because really people aren't going to go past like the second or third page on Etsy. They definitely won't go to the fourth page. So if you are somebody if you're on Etsy or you want to be on Etsy, one thing that you can do is look at the listings that are on the front, like the beginning pages, and then see like what their search words are. You definitely don't want to just copy another maker. Like that wouldn't fly. But like, what are some of the words that you keep seeing repeatedly? Is it, you know, spring wreath, wreath for front door, porch wreath, like all of those things? That's what people are typing in. So you know how when you go to Google and you say, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I mean, all I do is Google things, but like, who is Tom Brady? And then it would say, it would start populating, married to, dating, da da da. You know what I mean? Those pre-populate because those are the questions that people are asking it. Same thing with Etsy. So if you put in wreath in that search bar, like you were a customer, look and see what pops up next, because right now I want to say it's spring wreaths. A few weeks ago it was year-round wreaths. So that's a good way to start doing your research, because SEOs, which are like search engine options, I think that's the word, whatever it is, SEOs, those are the words that bring a buyer to your listing. So it takes a little time, it takes a little homework, and sadly, it changes pretty often. So you do need to stay on top of what the buzzwords are for people. Like it could be for Valentine's Day. For the Super Bowl, Etsy is doing this like huge promotion, and they're going to be pushing that Etsy is the place to get gifts. So in your tags, it could be, you know, gift for mom, like birthday gift, gift for new homeowner, housewarming gift. So the word is going to be gift. Okay. I don't know if anybody's in coaching circles. I'm in Julie Samako's, and she is like always up to date on all of this stuff. So that's why I know the Etsy thing. I can't take credit for that. But it is a good idea to find a coaching group that you enjoy and you feel like is informative and worth the money, because like that coach is doing a lot of the work for you. They're just then relaying the information to you. So I would never have known about the Super Bowl. I would not have paid attention. And, you know, amen for Julie. That lady puts the work in. All right. Betsy's saying that the Michaels in Canada is super expensive. That stinks. I don't know where a good place to get florals would be, because I don't know about like places like in the US where they ship to Canada without it being like a crazy price. Like I know somebody once asked me for a quote on a wreath and it was really expensive. I mean, shipping wreaths are expensive anyways because they're so big. But yeah, crossing the border, the expense was too much. Me and the customer agreed that was not worth it. All right, so far for texture, we have 2 types of greenery. And let's see, I want to refresh this every now and then. And I'm at like 2%, so I'm sure it's going to die. I just feel bad when I like if I don't catch something, or when I'm going to end a video if I see a question. So just trying to stay on top of it. Okay, now we're going to be using Queen Anne's lace. I only get this through Michael's Pro because if you have seen this in the store, usually like the heads are popped off, or a lot of this like, you know, stuff has come off. And so they need to be handled delicately. And then like, you know how things get shoved in the buckets there? Because of that, I just feel like these don't really make it. They don't survive the Michael's customer. So I like to get them in bulk. They come perfectly. So I love them in the white, and I also love them in like that chartreuse green. So I'm going to just cut the second one. All right. Today I finally cleaned my entryway. I mean, you would never think a wreath maker lived in this house. It was like, it still had the greens on it, like dead greenery. It still had the lights on it. It was just a hot mess. So I just put up like what I consider a year-round wreath, which is just like, it's a full wreath that's just greenery. And it's nothing fancy. It's only going to be out there for probably like a month. And that's all I need it for. It's just like that transition when you don't want Christmas out, but it's too early for spring. So that's what I did today. And there's a lot of things that I can share on YouTube. There's certain things that it looks like, I don't know if we want to like go to a different platform, but if people wanted to share their work, I don't think you can post on the community page. I can't say I've like fully researched it, but ideally I was hoping that somehow everyone could share their work on this page, because I feel like people have been so kind and supportive that it would be nice to show your work. And it would be nice if you're looking to get an Etsy shop going, to kind of like bounce ideas off one another. So trying to figure that out. I mean, I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, but really like as far as teaching goes, I'm on YouTube for that. I don't do those things on those platforms. So trying to figure out a way to make that happen. So here I've kind of, you know, alternated. So up, and again, I started in that corner that I always do. So up, down, that's kind of up. Now we're going to do the same thing down below. Let's see. And go under. And again, just mirror it. And if you have to bend this, like if the head isn't facing forward, if you're just seeing it sideways, that's really not serving its purpose. So it's okay to, you know, just bend the head. When you look at flowers in nature, their heads often tilt towards the sun. So on your wreath, or an arrangement, that's a nice little extra detail. I think it's a little sweet detail to give it that natural feel. All right, putting this in. And I always put the stems through the grapevine. I feel like if you find a piece of something, like if you put something just laying, like more like laying on it and gluing, you're missing what the beauty of the grapevine is, which is like things are going to get stuck. You got to work them in, which means you got to work them out. So I like actually making sure that the stem goes all the way through. And at the end, we'll show a little way that we do some polishing. I have no idea what these are supposed to be. I know that they're probably some type of pod, but again, I don't know. I feel like they're from a swamp, but they're pretty. So I am going to use them sparingly. And so I see right here, there's a nice spot for them. And then I always love something nice and delicate towards where it like cascades off. All right, so starting up top corner. I'm not 100% sure how much these cost, but I'm sure that they weren't like super cheap. They're really nice quality. So you want to make sure that they are going to be placed somewhere where they're going to be noticed. Like they're gonna shine. Okay, and I'm gonna repeat that down below. So, you know, when you're trying to figure out the repeating, I say, okay, so here's my big bloom, and then in between the two, that's where this is gonna go. And what's nice about that is when we just keep going back and forth, we have something that's nice and balanced, which it's just more pleasing to the eye, I think. Okay, now we're gonna take our next set. Do you hear them? Like they're like heavy plastic. Let's see. All right, hey Carol. I'm doing well. I think my iPad died. I try and use it to see the comments, but I can actually see the comments after the live. So if you have something, if you had a question or something, I think I can find it and then follow up with you on it. Put these on the ends. Him to just totally blend in, so and then I'm gonna put the larger one, like I'm purposely gonna make sure that I'm mirroring like where the big one goes, where the little one goes. And again, super malleable, so you can shape it however you like. All right. So every time I'm doing a wreath, at some point I just want to take a step back to see if there's neglected areas, okay? So if you are looking at this wreath, do you see an area or two where things aren't evenly distributed? I so wish I could see these comments. Love the color palette. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think this is cool. Kind of reminds me of like Under the Sea. So when I'm looking at this, the parts that I now see I've neglected is, you know, up here, down here, there just should be more fullness to it. And then I think I'm even going to go back in and add some more ficus leaves because I just think that this doesn't have enough like depth. I'm trying to think if there's another green I could use too. So let's put this back up. And let me look real quick. Oh, I like this. Do you guys like this? Eucalyptus is just such a great greenery. And these are pushers, so you can make them as airy or as concentrated as you want. So I always give them at least a little push, but keep in mind, us wreath makers are strong people. So if you go like beast mode on this, you're going to just pop the whole top off. So just do it slowly. All right, and then I'm going to use a little more ficus too. I feel like so many things can get fixed with greenery. Instead of like plugging in more and more flowers, which adds up, you could just use some like airy greens and it just balances everything off. So like here, if I get a point going, down here, if I get a pointy piece going, it's going to address that. So that's what we're going to do. I hope everybody had a good day today. And if people are happy with who's in the Super Bowl, I just want to see Taylor Swift. I don't care. So I'm very happy the Chiefs won for that specific reason. I do like Mahomes, but still, it was about Taylor. Okay, so we're going back now. Now that we've seen our uneven areas, I'm going to go back in and give it a nice bend, like natural movement. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. So if this foliage is in the way, just pull it off. If it doesn't serve you, then just remove it. All the way under here. And now, see, I kind of thought that the 2 were going to be enough, but now that I'm looking at it, it's just, there's just not enough dimension. So we're going to go plug in these eucalyptus, and we want to put them in prominent places. So, repeat down in the bottom corner. And then on the edge, and then we have 2 pieces left. I like to put stuff in between the bow and a big bloom. It just, that way there's separation, and it also holds things in place. So if like you don't want your bow to be completely crushed by, you know, these larger flowers, putting in a nice firm piece of greenery or like stern, it creates that little bit of separation, and it also looks so pretty. Like around the bow is where your eye's gonna go. So putting in some like sweet little details there, I think is a good place. It's a good idea. Repeat, side. I feel like we need a little bit more behind the bow. We did a crazy unboxing here. I think it was like Saturday night, and it was like $3,000 worth of inventory, and this place looked like a bomb went off. I'm so glad my parents live next door, and my dad loves to break down cardboard, and so he was like a godsend. He came over and took care of it for me. All right, so we're just gonna use one more bush of eucalyptus. And when you're doing this, if you kind of stray from what your original plan is, make sure that you're saving the tags, or if you don't have tags on it, saving like the stem so that you can go back and tally up what you ended up spending. Because that's how we lose money, is when we just like throw stuff in and we don't account for it. And I'm incredibly guilty of that. So I'm trying to be a lot better about making sure that you account for everything that you use. You know, your ribbon, your wreath, even the glue, like, you know, add an extra $1 on or something like that. Like the mechanics that you use, they're not free. The wire's not free. So come up with a value that you're okay with. So like instead of me saying a wreath costs $3.45, I'll usually say it's like $4.50 or $5. A nice prominent spot for this. Now that this is all coming together, I think I'll do this afterwards, but I think I might swap out the bow. I don't know why, I'm not feeling it. But I won't bore you with that. So what is that? Does anybody else like the bow? Just, I feel like something a little darker might make like more of a contrast, since these things are all like in such a close, they're so close to one another as a color palette. Yeah, I don't know. More to come on that. I'm pretty sure that's going to get switched. And we're almost done. I really wanted to make like a 20-minute one, and I will be doing one this week. But I felt like I wanted to like also give some background if someone hadn't seen like earlier videos, so that it just makes sense. Okay, so here we are. We have our hydrangea wreath, 4 hydrangeas. We've got our Queen Anne's lace. We've got these alien pod things that are so pretty. I need a piece of ficus right there. I had berries too, but I don't think I want to. I don't want to mess with it. I think that's gonna be too much. So when you are watching, if you watch like semi-regularly, like I love when people can find where the issues are. I think it's really good training. When I do in-person workshops, I always ask people, and it's not to put anybody on the spot, but once you get used to calling those things out, you'll know when you're making your own wreath, like where there is a deficit area. And if something doesn't look right, I always think it's gonna nag at me. So I just like to change it in the moment. I don't want to make this whole thing and then find out I need to pull it apart. Even though I know I said I'm gonna try and change the bow. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, our wreath is done, okay? She's looking good. We're gonna flip her over and we are going to start cutting off all of these stems that went through the wreath base. And so what I like to show people is this piece that I'm cutting. This is the piece that had the glue on it. So when I take away this piece, I'm also taking away the glue. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim all of these stems that would absolutely damage a door. And after I trim them, I'm gonna go in with a hot glue gun, and then I'm gonna add some moss on top just to cover the mechanics. If you don't wanna use moss, or you wanna keep the cost a little bit lower, you could also use unwanted foliage. So, you know, like you could just take these leaves and glue them on too. That works as well. All right. Wouldn't be alive if a dog didn't go nuts at some point. All right. All right, so now that this is done, I'm gonna go in with my glue gun. I use Gorilla Glue sticks and a Sure Bonder. It's called like a cordless corded glue gun. It works excellent. So I'm gonna start to go in and get the areas that I just trimmed. Now we are gonna put glue over it, but give this like a little bit of time. You do not need to fry your fingers over this. It's going to stay warm enough and tacky enough that you can add your moss, you know, after it's had a little time. Okay. So see how secure this is going to be between what's in between the grapevine and then on the back what we've done. And all of this stuff stays nice and soft for your customer's door, especially if they're a new homeowner. Imagine if their gift damaged their like brand new, freshly painted door. That would not go over well. All right. I swear I saw one somewhere. Okay. All right. And then I like to just take a regular hair dryer, okay, and to get off a lot of the glue hairs just to kind of like tackle them. I like to just go around with it at like a warm, like on the warmer side. I don't get too close because if you're doing something like this is plastic, this is plastic, you don't know how sensitive they are going to be or not to heat. So just go around and, you know, you're kind of pulling your glue hairs off. The best way to get all the glue hairs off is always to look at them in natural light. And then the last step that we do is we use our Krylon UV protectant spray. So I did find a couple other cans in my house. They do work. So there are Krylon. There's one that's like matte. There's one that is gloss. But this one is made specifically for florals. So like, you know, you can spray your florals for a good like 30, 40 seconds. You can get the bow. You don't need to bother with the grapevine if you want to. You know, obviously you can. But this is just like spray paint. So you need to do it in a ventilated area. And let your clients know, like, or your customers know that you took the time, you took the extra step for their wreath to last. You don't want it to last just a season. You're going to get more customers if they realize, like, geez, I've had this wreath for like 3 years. Why don't I get another one for a different season? Or why don't I get one for a different door? So, you know, having things that last are the best thing that we can do to, you know, gain trust with our customers and gain repeat business. So that is my spiel. I appreciate anybody who tuned in, and I want to thank you guys again. You guys have been keeping me very busy, and it's all been it just feels like a blessing. So again, thanks so much. If there's something else you want to see or you have questions, just reach out, okay? Have a great night, everybody.